Yo, what's poppin', guys? Sizzyl here, and this is probably the most important video I'll ever make on this channel, and it's 15 sayings that I live my life by, either for the longest time or just as of recent, but there are 15 kind of battle-tested sayings, if you know what I mean, right? Things that have actually improved my life after I started kind of believing in them and incorporating them into my life. Now, I do want to make it very clear, I don't have everything figured out, I'm still pretty young myself, but I'm pretty confident that these 15 things are kind of just true, right? I've checked them enough, they're battle-tested enough, I've went through enough in regards to them that I'm pretty confident that this is stuff that will really help anyone who's aware of it. With all that out of the way, let's get off to the sayings. The first saying is, don't attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence. This is probably my most repeated saying, like a lot of people I know have probably heard me say this, and what it basically means is don't assume someone's an asshole, just like a jerk, like specifically hates you, if at the same time they could just be forgetful or have made a mistake or be a little bit dumb. I mean, let's be real honest with ourselves. Think right now, in the last month, how many mistakes have you made? How many times have you been really dumb? How many times have you forgotten something? How many times, doesn't have to be something major, but just something. Right? How many times have you went to grab food and you forgot to grab a fork or something stupid like that? There's a lot of small stuff. You don't really think about it too much, but if you really think about it, you'll probably get a decent list. And that's true for everyone. Now, the scale of what people forget and what people are stupid with and the times they make mistakes can be very, very different, right? Sometimes it's as simple as forgetting a fork. Sometimes you forget to call your friend. Sometimes, you forget to respond to a message that you read. It does happen, and just because someone doesn't reply to you or doesn't act a certain way or does anything doesn't mean they hate you. Now, if someone says I hate you, they probably do. This doesn't mean everything, it can't be mean, but 99% of the time, whenever you think someone's being a dick to you, they just don't think the same way that you do, right? They live in a very different world, and they got their own experiences and their own ways of thinking and stuff, and the thing they said probably wasn't meant to be mean. It might not have meant to be nice, but probably not as mean as you're making it out to be. And you're probably wondering why this is the most repeated phrase I've ever said, and it's because a lot of the time online, I meet people when I'm playing video games. We'll play whatever video game I'm playing that month, and then I'll go on to the next game, and I kind of just won't hit them up because I see they're still playing that game and I'm playing the new one. I'm just like, whatever, that's their game, they can have fun with it. It's not the end of the world, and then I'll hit them up if they're playing the same game again. But a lot of people, after I hit them up 7 months later, they're like, oh, I thought we just fell apart. I thought you didn't like me or something like that. It's like, no, we're still friends. You can be friends after time. It's something odd that's kind of come about after phones and the internet became a lot more normal. Because back in the day, you would not see your friends for years, right? You would graduate high school. Even now, you graduate high school, you don't see your friends for 5 years. It's pretty normal stuff. And my dad even had a time where he hadn't seen someone for 30 years. And then he was just in the area that he knew the guy was at. He sent them a message, said, hey, let's grab a beer. They grabbed the beer, they had a good time, they caught up, and they're still friends. They are still friends. They're not pretending. That is friendship. Friendship does not mean you gotta be there 24/7 for each other. And a lot of time people just assume that because you don't instantly respond to their messages or because you didn't invite them out to something that you invited someone else out to, that you hate them. That's just not true, and that never will be true. On a very unrelated note, we have the second saying, which is, you're either amazing, awful, annoying, or forgettable. Now, this is a saying I often have heard from my parents, and you might be thinking wow, your parents sound like assholes. And no, they really aren't. This is really good advice, and I ignored them every time they said it. That's why they said it a lot, because nothing would happen, and then they'd say this, and then nothing would happen. And it was well, at some point they gave up on saying it, but I kind of wish I listened to them, because this is the most important thing when you're trying to find a job. Now, if you're super young, you're 12, don't worry about this. It's not that important. But as you're getting older, it gets a lot harder to meet people, to find friends, to find a job, to get connections, kind of get around in the more adult world. And it's mainly because of this saying, right? Think about it again. Think right now about people, just anyone you know, anyone you've interacted with, whether you know their name or not. And think about it, were they amazing, awful, or annoying? Or were they something else? They probably weren't something else. It's one of those three 99% of the time. At least for me, the first people that come to mind are my friends, right? They're amazing, they're cool. they're awesome, right? Then number 2, people that have wronged me in life, right? People who've done bad things to me that I really, really don't like, right? Those are the awful people. People that are annoying, which kind of oftentimes overlap with the awful category, but there's people that just sometimes will like spam you or something. They're not bad people, you just annoying. But those are the people I remember. I don't remember the guy I walked past on the street and we both looked away from each other. I mean, nobody remembers that. And that's true in the professional world as well. If you want to be remembered, if you want someone to, you know, be working somewhere, they're like, oh, we're looking to hire someone new. Do you know anyone? Like, you're going to come to mind if you're one of those first 3. You're not going to come to mind if you're like a forgettable presence, if you're the guy who said nothing, was just in the background all the time. It does suck kind of having to put yourself out there, and it's not a good feeling to have people think you're annoying or awful or hate you. I mean, I would know. I have a lot of people that do. That's just part of life, especially if you're a bit more honest, and like, you know, people will kind of be honest back and be upfront, which I do appreciate. But there's a decent amount of people that have pretty openly said, not directly to me, but they'll say to someone I know that they really don't like me, and then I'll find out like years later, by the time I like don't interact with them anymore, that they hated me the whole time. And it's like, oh, I would have never known that. But either way, kind of putting yourself out there, it's the only way you'll get anywhere or meet people. I mean, the people I know now I would have never met if I wasn't annoying in some way, shape, or form. Most of the people I met, they were just like doing something I liked, right? They were playing a video game, you know, playing tennis, something like that, and I just walked over, I'm like, hey, you got an open spot, can I play with you? Most people are pretty open to it, and they're like, hell yeah, and you know, that's how I meet friends. Other people are like, nah, we're trying to play one-on-one, or like, I'm playing with my fucking son or something like that, and then you just kind of leave it be. Most of those people forget about that within the next week, and then the people that are now your new friends are now your new friends, which is great. And another example, I mean, just being amazing doesn't lead to lifelong stuff all the time, but like I was getting groceries the other day, and I was just, you know, I was paying for it, and the guy behind me in line, some really old guy, was just like, oh, I guess it's pretty pricey to live healthy, right? And he'd, you know, he'd chuckle or something like that. It was something like that. It was something very basic, but you know, I just laughed. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I was buying a bunch of chicken and fruit and shit, and it's somewhat pricey. It's pretty expensive, and you know, it's a very basic statement. Very awkward to kind of say if you know think about it too much. But for me, that brightened up my day. I remember that guy. It's been 3 days now, and I still remember him. Probably gonna remember him for the next week or two, because that just, I don't know. It was a fun, nice interaction. You don't get those too often. People really do generally appreciate when you approach them and do stuff. And the worst that can happen is that they don't like you, and then you never see them again. It's really not that bad. I don't really have a transition for this third one, but the third saying is, honesty is the best policy most of the time. Now, I say most of the time because there's times where it's just not really worth telling the truth. I mean, it's not really worth lying most of the time, but there's a lot of times where it just isn't really worth speaking your mind, right? If you, especially if it's like a negative thought, people will say something like, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. And a lot of the time that's pretty true, but sometimes people just need to hear it, man. Like, otherwise people just go and do annoying shit and be dumb, and they'll never hear anything negative, and it just reinforces that behavior's okay when it's really not. So you gotta be honest sometimes, but really a lot of the time you don't have to go the full mile. You can hold back a bit, or you could just not say anything if it's someone you're never gonna see again. But a lot of the time I do appreciate being honest, my friends being honest, and just kind of honesty in general. It's really nice. I really don't like when people are like speaking behind my back and shit. I'd rather someone go up to my face and say, hey, I don't like that you did that, I don't like you, I don't like this game, whatever. You know, most of the time it's not that deep. I especially appreciate when people do it. It sucks for 2 seconds, you know, in that conversation, but at the end of the day, I do appreciate the people that are upfront. That saves everyone a lot of time. I mean, I've been pretty upfront. If I really don't like someone, which is pretty rare, you have to really be mainly annoying for me to really not like you, but I'm pretty upfront with people when I don't like them or don't like something they're doing and stuff, and I think people around me appreciate it. I mean, I've had people around me tell me that they appreciate my honesty, but I'm not always honest. Sometimes I'll lie about stuff, especially if it's funny, but you know, in things that generally matter and in the larger kind of scheme, I'm generally pretty honest, and I think there's a lot of value in being honest and being direct. Just because if you're dishonest, you're gonna build up this massive facade. It's a lot of work to be dishonest all the time, because you kind of have to like lie about your lies, and it builds up this massive pile of lies, this massive web that's impossible to keep track of, and at some point you're gonna slip up, and it's gonna cause a big set of problems if you kind of hold it in. If you just tell someone you don't like them, Like, after 2 weeks, you don't like that they do this thing, you don't like that they call you a nickname or something like that, either they're not going to stop and you know, oh, this guy's just going to be an asshole no matter what, in which case it's a lot easier to kind of cut them off, or B, like, they'll stop, and before it becomes a habit for them, it's done with. And it's generally just better for most people most of the time. Just be pretty upfront, pretty honest. You don't want to be brutally honest, you don't want to really go over the top. Nobody appreciates people that are brutally honest and tell them every little thing that they don't like about someone. But a lot of the time it is really better to be honest. It'll save you a lot of kind of hassle in the future. It's kind of one of those things where it sucks the second you're honest, but then for the 3 months afterward, you won't have to deal with those repercussions anymore. Whereas if you're lying, that's 3 months you have to keep lying and keep the lie going. And it's really just not worth it, kind of ever. Although, like I said, it's kind of a fine balance. It's a hard balance to do. Because as saying Forrest says, some things are better left unspoken, right? Because, well, a lot of things are really better left unspoken. Like, be truthful as much as you can, obviously. I do actually believe that honesty is a great policy. It's something you should kind of strive to be, but lying by omission, or kind of not saying things that don't need to be said, is also an important skill. I've had a lot of people tell me a lot of very awkward stuff at work. You know, someone will be like, oh, I haven't washed this shirt in 3 days. I'm like, dude, my life would have been 30 times better if I did not have that information. Why did you, like, what are you doing? You don't need to say that stuff. There's a lot of stuff like that where it's really obvious that you shouldn't talk about it. There's just as much where it's not as obvious immediately, but the more you talk to people, the more you kind of pick up on what those things are. I can't really give you a list here because it changes based on who you're talking to, when you're talking to them, and things like that. But there's a lot of things that are better left unspoken, and a lot of time it is a little bit better to not say something than to say it. It just really depends on your situation, but it's just worth being aware that despite honesty being really nice, it doesn't mean that you have to be overly honest and tell me literally everything going on. I really do not need some of this information that people have kind of just dumped on me over the years. It's really not appreciated. With all that out of the way, we're off to saying number 5, which is the smartest and most successful people are the laziest. Now this is something I think I've heard from like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or something, a bunch of people in like TED Talks and stuff like that, if you guys know what those are still. But yeah, it's pretty true. Like, all the smartest people in the world are the people that are not necessarily lazy, because when people think lazy, they think of people doing literally nothing, people laying back on their couch eating chips, watching TV. That's kind of not what I mean by lazy. That's not what they mean either. They mean people that try to get results by doing the least amount of work, because that is a true lazy person. That's the smart, successful, lazy person that is smart and successful. I mean, it's really helped me in life to kind of know this and to think this way, where a lot of the time, like, on homework, you know, if you're working at a job, things like that, like, you are way better off trying to be lazy and to do less. Now, you don't want to over optimize. That's a problem I've had a lot of the time, and that's kind of something I've had to work on, where I try to be as lazy as possible, but I don't get the work done. That's why the second half of that sentence from earlier was really important, where I said, you know, people that want to do the least amount to still do the same, like, get the same end result, right? That end result actually being achieved is still very important. But if you can achieve the same result by doing half the work, you are just going to be smarter and more successful. Or there's times where not working as hard actually helps a lot. I mean, this is true for a lot of really low income jobs, where when you're earning like close to the minimum wage in high school and stuff, like, by doing less, oftentimes it means people will expect less of you, and then you have to do even less while at work, and you still get paid the same as the guy next to you doing 8 times the work. Now, when you're starting to get into career jobs, this might not be as true, but even as you're getting into career jobs, a lot of money and a lot of kind of people look really more at the hours worked rather than what you've done. So if you know how to do something like 2 times slower, a lot of the time for job security, it's better to actually do stuff worse, because when you finish your work early, it depends on what job you have. If you have like a salary job, you can just be efficient, people love you for it. But if you have like an hourly paid job, people will not appreciate you being done with your work and then just like sitting down somewhere or standing somewhere, which is kind of dumb in my opinion. I feel like if you finish your work earlier, they should just let you go home. And in a good work environment, they will, but most work environments are not good work environments. They're pretty shitty, and you get rewarded for hours worked, and you can get more hours worked by doing less. by doing stuff at half the speed and being kind of slow, you will technically have worked for longer, even though it feels way less fulfilling and it's way less efficient. That efficiency often isn't rewarded in like a more corporate world, but in a non-corporate world, right, when you're in school, when you're, actually like in a good job, or if you're self-employed or in any of your hobbies or stuff, like you can look for the shortcuts, and there's a lot of shortcuts out there that will save you a lot of time, where if you can figure them out, you will genuinely be better off for it. And it's helped me a lot to kind of be looking for that and be aware of it in my life. Now, despite me just saying that there's a lot of shortcuts out there, there's saying 6, which is short-term benefits often lose out to long-term results, aka there are no shortcuts in life. Which is kind of odd considering I just told you there's a lot of shortcuts in life, but this saying is kind of a little bit different. When I was talking about shortcuts, I was talking about shortcuts to get you kind of the same end result in more simple and less kind of defined and routine tasks. But a lot of the more routine stuff is where this kind of comes into play, right? Stuff like working out. It sucks. Most people don't like working out and going to the gym, but you kind of just have to keep doing it. There's no short-term kind of way to work out. You can't work out in a month and get the same results as someone that worked out for 2 years. It's just not how it works, right? Even if you do get it in 1 month, if in month 2 you don't work out anymore, those short-term benefits go away. So a lot of the time, I mean, this is just true with the more long-term stuff in your life, right? Keeping good care of your body, so like your hygiene, showering, brushing your teeth, things like working out, eating well, and also stuff like saving for your future, like saving money in the bank to future-proof your life, have money just in case the worst happens. That stuff, you can't shortcut. There's no short-term kind of way to do that. I mean, this is a really good example, like the stock market. You could like gamble all your money away. You could put all your money on puts and shorts and all this crazy shit in the stock market, and you could either lose it all the next day or be a millionaire overnight. And it's like, that just doesn't exist for most people. You're not going to be a millionaire overnight. Take the long, tedious path, and you will be better off most of the time when it comes to any long-term stuff like that. It's just true. There's no shortcut to having a healthy body, to having a healthy life, to having good friends. There's just no shortcut to this stuff. All of this takes time. Getting good things at the end, it takes time. There are quicker ways to do it, maybe. There's better ways to do it, right? So even though you have to like work out every day, if you optimize your routine, you might only have to work out 45 minutes instead of like 2 hours or something to get the same result. But someone who works out 15 minutes every day will be better off than someone who works out 1 hour every 6 months or something with a super optimized routine, just because the consistency is really key in most of these general kind of things in life. And I tried to take a lot of shortcuts in this stuff. I mean, that's why I know. I tried to kind of cut a lot of this stuff as short as possible and do as little as possible to get the end results. And I can tell you from experience, most of the stuff, you can cut back on it a bit. I mean, you can definitely save a bit of time. Some people will shower for like 15-20 minutes and you're just wasting time, money, and water and like everything. And it doesn't take that long to take a shower, but you still have to shower, every day. You can't skip out on that. That's just not how it works, right? You cannot take those short-term benefits over long-term results. The biggest one though is money. People really need to save money. A lot of people I know just spend so much all the time and they're like not prepared. They break their leg one day and then they're in debt. And that just sucks. You don't ever want to go into debt. This is unrelated to anything here, but if you can never take out debt in your life will be so much better. Owing people money is like the most stressful thing. Just owing them any amount of money. I almost never lend money from people without paying them back the millisecond I'm home, because having to think about how you owe this guy $20, you owe the bank this much, and if you don't pay them on this Thursday, they're gonna charge you extra money for owing them money. Like it's not worth it. If you can avoid going into debt, it's worth doing, especially like going to college and stuff. I really don't think college is for most people, especially if you're gonna go into crazy amounts of debt. It's something you should really consider. But that's kind of a whole different discussion. That one I'm not as sure on, because like I said, I'm still relatively young, but I really do think most people overpaid on the colleges that they went to. With that out of the way, the next saying is, rules are mostly made to be broken, act first and ask for forgiveness later. Now this is a saying I think I heard in like either in like a modern MBA or just some type of business-related YouTube video I was watching where they just talk about, you know, big businesses. I think this one was talking about Uber. I don't remember the video anymore, but it was something like Uber basically went around, broke every law, and then was like, whoops, my bad, and then got like a few $1 million in fines for making billions of dollars by breaking the law. I mean, Google did the same stuff, Facebook did the same. Every big company is constantly in some random lawsuit where they like completely broke the law and they get paid like, you know, they pay $10 million in fines for earning $2 billion by doing something illegal. So it's like a slap on the wrist for them. Now, as an individual person, you don't get those same kind of liberties. If you're not super rich, you can't just live your life ignoring all the rules. And a lot of rules are there for a reason, right? Stuff like don't kill people, I think I agree with. I think you should not kill people randomly. I think I firmly stand by that, and don't use this video as justification for doing any of that. Like, it's not something I'm endorsing here, but a lot of the more simple stuff, right, like jaywalking, for example. Everyone jaywalks, let's be completely honest here. Everybody I know jaywalks. I jaywalk, people I don't know jaywalk. It just is a part of life. Like, if you live on the planet, you jaywalk. And it's just because jaywalking is like a law. That's like a lot of laws and a lot of rules. A lot of rules are more like guidelines rather than rules, where it's like, don't run on the highway, right? That's like, I think that's jaywalking. I think that's what jaywalking covers. Don't run into active traffic, don't run on the highway, stuff like that. And I think that makes sense, but that's because people would do that if they didn't have jaywalking as a law. They have to make jaywalking a thing so people don't run into ongoing traffic and then blame the car. Because if you ran into ongoing traffic, especially if I see you, you know, on foot crossing the highway, you kind of deserve whatever happened to you there. I'll be dead honest. Like, that's your fault for not looking both ways and for also attempting to cross the fucking highway. Like, you're crazy for that. That's why jaywalking is a thing, but because they need to go to the furthest extreme because otherwise someone will go take advantage of it, they need to make it like jaywalking on the whole is illegal. But everyone kind of knows that's what it really means. And there's a lot of other rules, you know, like don't cheat. Everyone cheats. Everyone I ever know, the most successful, least successful academically, they all cheat. We all had giant group chats for homework. We would tell each other if one guy took an exam in the morning, the other guy had the same test in the evening. The guy in the morning would tell the guy during lunch what was on the tests for the evening, and he would do better because he had that information. People always cheat and always break some rules to get ahead. Try to be ethical, try to kind of do what you can, but at the same time, everyone's unethical, and you kind of have to like skirt the rules a little to get ahead in life. This is just true. Everyone does it. Genuinely, everyone does it. It's hard to figure out what rules you're allowed to break and stuff, but you can kind of figure it out over time, and as the more you look at people not following the rules, the more you'll realize how much of more of a guideline rather than a hard regulation most rules are. Not saying that you should break every rule, but there are a lot of rules out there that people break all the time that if you don't break, you will just be behind in life because of. So, just worth being aware that a lot of rules really are not fully enforced or were never really designed to be fully enforced, and it's something to be super aware of. You know, another really great example is like copyright law. I mean, nobody knows how it works. You could talk to 30 lawyers, you could spend $2 million talking to each of them, and all 30 lawyers will give you a different answer on how it works. Every judge will give you a different answer on how it works. Nobody really knows, and especially on YouTube, everyone just kind of does things and assumes it's good. I mean, there's some people that like blatantly break copyright law, like basically upload the exact video someone made and then react to it with like no transformation, no effort, and they just put like a little fair use disclaimer at the start, and I haven't really seen any of them go to court or anything bad happen to them. So it's like, even though they're pretty blatantly breaking the law, it's easier for them to just like get sued and go bankrupt after the fact, rather than to ask 14 lawyers like, hey, is copyright law like work this way or that way? You just kind of got to make your best guess, try to do what's right at the end of the day, and that's kind of what this saying's all about, right? That rules aren't always strict, and that you kind of have to figure out what they really mean, which sucks, but that's just the world we live in. Speaking of sucking, we have saying number 8, which is life sucks for everyone, deal with it. Now, this is a saying directly from my parents. It's probably the #1 phrase I've heard the most in my life, other than stuff like I love you and hello and stuff like that. But it's very high up there in terms of the amount of times that I've heard it, and it's a pretty straightforward phrase, and there's a reason they say it a lot, because life does suck for everyone. Everyone deals with it in their own way. some people don't make it obvious that their life sucks in many different ways, and your goal in your life generally is just to make it suck less. Or just, you know, have like a lot of happy memories irregardless of the sucking. There's a lot of shitty parts of life. There's a lot of things that aren't fun to do. I mean, you know, for example, working out every day is not something I look forward to every day, but it's something I do every day to just kind of be healthy and live a better life. It sucks, and it sucks for everyone, but you gotta deal with it. You gotta still do stuff. You gotta still be part of society and kind of like get stuff done, for lack of better words. And it's just, yeah, it does suck. Life does suck. The situations where my parents were saying this to me sucked ass. But like at the end of the day, you do just have to deal with it, and you do have to move on. You can't stay stuck up with every little thing forever. And sometimes you really just need to move on and kind of live your life. Especially with big tragedies, this has really helped me in some of my darkest times, like, you know, the loss of loved ones. That stuff is really hard to get over. I'm still never getting over it. I'm still not over it. Sometimes I'll just be sitting there and then like I'll like think like, oh yeah, that person died, and I gotta like live with that, and I still have to live with that. It still sucks, but it's just part of life, and you gotta deal with it, and you gotta move on, because the world does not wait for you. You have to kind of make sure you don't fall behind, because it's very hard to catch up. On a pretty similar note, we have the phrase that I'm sure of all the phrases in this video, I think this is the one most people would have heard before, and that's "sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." And this one's a pretty straightforward thing. It's, I mean, you know, words can't hurt you. If someone calls you stupid, I mean, they're stupid for saying that. I don't know what to say. Really, a lot of the time, kind of how insulted you get is more up to you rather than to them. Like, people will, if they see you get insulted when they say something to you, they'll just say more. They'll do more of the same. They'll double down. They'll triple down. You'd be like, no, don't say that. It's fucked up. And they say it a second time because it's fucked up and it's funny or whatever. It's like you're just kind of encouraging people by reacting to stuff. And often the best way to get people to stop doing stuff is to stop reacting. I mean, people pick like targets when they're doing bullying or when they're doing a comedy routine or anything like that. The targets are not picked at random most of the time. Like, maybe they started by attacking 10 random people, but the people they stick to, the guy they keep making jokes at the expense of, is the person that like gives them the best reaction at the end of the day. So by not reacting, I mean, you really will save yourself a lot of hassle in your life. There's been a lot of the times where people have said stuff I just didn't like, and rather than make a big deal out of it, I just kind of like ignored them, and then they just stopped doing it. Obviously, some people will take that as like, oh, this is okay to do, and then like just say it all the time, and that's when you speak up and do something. But like, most of the time, the stuff people say to you, even the stuff that's like, you know, really annoying and cringe and like sometimes even fucked up, realistically can only do as much damage as you let them. Except threats. Threats are a bit different, right? If someone says, I'm gonna kill your mother or something like that, like, that's a threat. That's a very different kind of thing entirely. That's not just words. Now you're mixing in actions with the words, right? That's mixing in the stone with the word. It's like saying, I'm going to throw this stone at you, and then actually throwing the stone. It's like, well, the throwing the stone and the fact that those words were like a premonition of that, that's what I don't like, is the threats, the actual action coming with it. But words are only as powerful as you kind of let them be. And a lot of the time, you'll really be better off just not giving people a light of day when they say stupid shit to you. Just kind of ignore them and leave it be. Speaking of ignoring people, it's not something you should do all the time, because as saying number 8 says, you can and should make acquaintances easily, but good friends take time to find. It is really easy to meet people and be on good terms with them. It really takes a lot for most people for them to like really dislike you and be like, I don't want to see that guy ever again. You really got to do something kind of crazy for most people to really care that much. But good friends really take forever to actually have, right? I think in my whole life, the amount of like friends that I would consider like best friends, probably like 2 or 3 people. And they know who they are. I know who they are, they know who they are. It's a pretty mutual relationship. But they're people that the first time I saw them, most of these people I would not have assumed were going to be my lifelong friends. I thought it'd be someone else in the group of friends we had at the time. And it's shocked me to see who kind of the real ones were, you know, who the people that stuck around at the end of everything. And your best friends should be people that you've kind of been through thick and thin with, right? People that you know will have your back, people that will be honest with you, right? Whenever you're messing up, they'll tell you, they'll give you kind of a warning in a nice way, right? They're not people who are gonna be like, oh, you fucked up, I'm never talking to you again. They're gonna be people like, oh, you fucked up, don't do that ever again. Like, that was really not a good idea. They'll be honest with you. You do need people that aren't just yes men. I mean, it's nice to be around yes men. Everyone likes being around yes men. Having people tell you, you're great, you're the best, you know, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. Everyone likes that. But you need some reality in your life from time to time. You also don't need people that 24/7 tell you like, oh, you look fucking fat. Right? That's not great either. You don't need like the polar opposite end of the spectrum either. But a friend should have your back. You should have their back. It should be someone that you trust has your best intentions in mind. And you won't know that until years of knowing someone. I mean, the people I am best friends with now, I would probably have not said were my best friends until probably 3 or 4 years after knowing them. Like, it takes some real time. You have to go through quite a lot with people to really establish that level of trust. But once you do, you'll know what I mean, and you'll know, like, keep those people around, man. You don't want to lose those relationships. They take forever to form again. And those people really don't come around often in your life. It really takes a lot to, first off, have someone you interact with that much, and then second off, have it just all be great, right? Someone that every time you talk with them, your life either stays the same or it gets better. A lot of time it gets better. Whenever I'm talking to my best friends, a lot of time my life gets better the second I start talking with them, and then the second the conversation's like done, I normally just feel better than I did before. Those are your best friends, but they take a lot of time to find. There is like no shortcuts to finding great friends. But there are a lot of people that you can just meet and be on good terms with, and it does not hurt to be on good terms with people. There's tons of people that I've known for like probably upwards of a decade at this point that I'd say are acquaintances, right? They're good friends. They're just not best friends, right? They're not like those people, those 3 people I was talking about. There are literally 3 people in my whole life at this point that are like that aren't like directly family, because family's a whole different tier. Family, oftentimes, you're forced to interact with so much that even if you don't like each other, you kind of end up being on positive terms and helping each other out and stuff. But with friends, you can pick and choose. If you don't like someone, they don't have to be your best friend, but that doesn't mean you need to like fully cut them off either. Like, you can be on relatively neutral terms, and then if you just see them, you're like, oh, it's you, hey, or just do whatever you do with them. You don't have to like love and be best friends with everyone around you, but I just mainly kind of wanted to point out that like, it is very important to have people that you trust. They're really, you need people in your life that you can trust. There's been so many times in my life where if I didn't have those 3 people and my family as well, my family's also very important. If I didn't have those 3 people and my family around me, that I would have made the wrong decision. Like, you want people that you can go to, you can ask for feedback, ask for advice, and things like that. Because nobody has everything figured out, and the more people you know, the more acquaintances you have, the more good friends you have, the more best friends you have, the better off you will be. At the end of the day, it doesn't really hurt to be on good terms with people, even if they're not your best friends. I just wanted to point out that a lot of people say so-and-so is their best friend, and they really try to make something work that doesn't. And that you kind of want to be aware of, like, you know, who your friend really is, who that person next to you really is, what they would actually do in so-and-so situation. And you want to make sure that your best friends, the people you trust, the people that you kind of give the most insight into your life, are people that you would trust to do that, right? People that you know for a fact really got your back, which is really not most people you're ever going to meet. Very few people do I know that I would kind of do everything for. There's a lot of people I would help out if I saw they were in, you know, a bad spot, but there's not many people that I would do like everything for to make sure that they were okay. And you just want to make sure your friends are people where that's like pretty mutually understood to be the case. Now, saying number 11 is somewhat related to all that, and it's the best things in life are free, and nothing is actually ever free. And that's kind of a weird, you know, saying. It almost contradicts itself, but you'll kind of get what I mean in a second. I mean, first off, the best things in life are free is probably a saying you've heard a million times, and that's because it's really true, in my opinion. Most of the best things in life don't have direct monetary attachments. Like, you know, some of the best things in my life are my best friends. I didn't pay them money to be my best friends. That didn't cost me anything. It was free to be friends with them. Now, I spent a lot of time and effort and everything with them, and that's how we became best friends. But a lot of those kind of things in life, they're free. Like, the memories you have in your head are free, right? Your best friends are free. going outside and just looking at the sun, that's free. Like, stuff like that is free, and you shouldn't take it for granted. It's really nice to have that stuff. And the reason the second part of the sentence, the saying, is there is because I want to clarify, whenever people hear the best things in life are free, they assume that there are things that are free, you know, like products, and nothing given to you by a company is ever truly free. This is just not how that's just not how business and corporation works. That's why the second part of the sentence is there, because I feel like if I just said the first part, people would be like, oh, like, that means if, like, I get this free chocolate bar right here, and I just have to sign this waiver, but it's, like, free, then it's great. It's like, no, companies never have your best interests in mind. The goal of every company is to make money, and giving away free stuff is one of the easier ways to get people to start spending money with you. Or just, like, to make money off someone without them realizing it. You know, stuff like making a Google account, right? People, I mean, I love it. I have one. I have one for YouTube, and I had one for my email. I did luckily migrate away from it over time, but, like, you know, it's nice. It's nice. Free stuff is nice, but there is a real drawback. Google harvests a lot of your data. They're pretty upfront about it now, but they used to really not be as much. And you have to just be aware of what the drawbacks are when you're taking free stuff. Like, YouTube's something where I'm almost willing to kind of give them some of the information I've given them, just because I like the service that much. It's like something I'm willing to kind of pay with my information for. But a lot of people don't even realize that when they're signing up on websites, that when they're, you know, playing a free-to-play game or something, there's like a real cost to everything that's free. And you just have to analyze what that is and make sure you're not getting screwed over, because a lot of people that will screw you over, the people that tell you they're giving you stuff for free or for cheap, or this is like a special deal, and it's very rare that those things are true. And I want to make sure that, you know, the second part of that sentence, that's what that means. The first part, best things in life are free. It is true. It's true. Everything that I most enjoy in life, like, is free in some way, shape, or form, right? The people around me, the memories in my head, the experiences I live. Like, it costs money to get to the positions for some of this stuff, but at the end of the day, the memories themselves and the connections and everything like that, that stuff is all free, and that stuff is stuff you should really cherish and really value for what it is while you can. Speaking of cherishing and valuing stuff while you can, this next saying is one I hold very near and dear to my heart. And it's express gratitude when you can if you think someone deserves it. You'll never know when you'll be able to again. Now, this is something I'd heard a few times, and I just kind of, you know, was like, oh, that's cheesy. It's a cheesy line right there. That's something I would say in movies. But it's something I very much believe in now. The unfortunate part is anyone who's heard this phrase probably thought the same shit I did initially, where I just was like, that's cheesy, whatever, I'm not going to think about it too much. But the second you have someone that you love die, but when you lose someone in real life, it becomes painfully obvious how true this is. I always make sure that everyone that I really, really like in my life just knows it, right? You know, like my family, my friends, I always tell them, you know, nice hanging out with you, I love you, things like that. Like, just let people know they are appreciated, because you never know if you'll get to be able to do it again. Genuinely. You never know. People can die right now. Your best friend could have just died while I was saying that. Like, if this video gets big enough, that might even happen, which would be kind of fucked up. I hope that doesn't happen. But it's one of those things where, like, this is something you will recognize after someone or something near to you dies. You know, near and dear to you dies. Something no longer exists. And it sucks that that's the way everyone learns it, and I don't think me saying this is going to help. But if I can help even one person understand this before someone close to them or something close to them dies, I'll feel very happy with myself that they were at least able to tell that person they loved them, and those were like the last words they heard, or something like that. Very dark, very grim, but that is life, you know? Like I said, life sucks for everyone. That's just how it is. Now, this next one is like almost unrelated. It's like not even unrelated. It's almost like the polar opposite. It's going to be kind of an odd transition here. But the next saying is, make mistakes, but don't make the same one twice. Now, that's not really related at all to the last one, right? Like, having someone die is not a mistake that you made, or whatever. But this saying of making mistakes and all that is just being open to making them. A lot of people get this fear. I mean, I had this myself for ages, where they fear messing up. They're like, if I fuck this up, like, what will happen? I have to do this right the first time. I have to do this perfectly. Oh, I can't start playing a sport right now. I'm gonna be so much worse than these guys, and I'm gonna, like, make mistakes and be bad, and they won't like me. And it's like, how are you ever gonna get good at something if you don't suck at it? This is just like how things work, right? People say the phrase, practice makes perfect, but it doesn't make it obvious that practice is making mistakes. That's all practice really is at the end of the day. It's mistakes you make. This is how I get good at video games. This is how I get good at other aspects of my life. I mean, the way I got to be like a high-ranking player in Overwatch was, one, a lot of play time, because you have to play the general amount of time to get good at anything. Like they say, practice makes perfect. But number two, I almost optimize my playstyle for making as many mistakes as possible and then learning from them, right? I would like turbo feed. I would do my best to be as aggressive as possible and have as many interactions as possible, die as much as possible to kind of get the experience and know, like, what not to do. Like, I basically learned firsthand, don't do that, because then this happens. And then the more you do that and the more you figure out, the more you know what not to do in the future. And it's better to do it earlier rather than later, because the older you get, the more repercussions there are for possibly making mistakes. But, like, a lot of the things I'm super aware of now are the things that I fucked up on, right? Anything relating to banking, right? I had one time where I didn't pay off my credit card right away, and I got charged $70 for not paying it off in that month. And that's $70 fucking dollars, dude. That's like, at the time, that was 7 hours of my life worked. If I had worked 7 hours at a job, I lost 7 hours of work to just, like, not sending in my credit card payment at the right time, even though I had the money. Like, that's one of those things that's just, you feel so stupid after the fact, but, like, now that it happened, like, now I'm, like, super keenly aware of paying off my credit card in time. I have it set up to, like, auto pay and stuff, so that as soon as I have, like, the money and the payments there, it pays it, so I don't even have to think about it as much anymore. But, like, that's stuff like that, or just even smaller stuff, right? If you're playing a sport and you try to pass to someone and it goes too low or it goes too high, or you send it flying past their head because there was too much power, or it didn't get to them because they didn't put enough power behind it, right? That's stuff you learn by making mistakes. This includes talking to people, this includes meeting people, this includes every aspect of your life. The only way you're gonna get good at stuff, and the only way that you're kind of improve, is to make mistakes. And your goal is to try and not make the same mistake twice. Because making the same mistake twice means you're not really learning. I mean, it can happen, it will happen, right? You will make the same mistake twice. Even if you're aware of stuff, sometimes some mistakes are just kind of like unavoidable, where you'll forget for a minute and then you'll remember. But try your best in life to try and not make the same mistake twice, and that is how you will learn, that's how you get better, and that's how you'll kind of be a better person at the end of the day. Another kind of common way of saying this is, you know, fake it till you make it. And that's where you just kind of send it, right? You kind of just do stuff until you actually are able to do it. And that's really helped me in life. It helped me realize, first off, no one knows what's going on. Nobody knows what they're doing, really. People have just kind of figured out what works over time by fucking up enough. And it's something that's helped me a bunch, and I've been way better at stuff. I've been way more confident. I definitely act way more confident. Like, people think I do so much more than I do on a day-to-day basis. People think I'm so much more successful, that I'm much older, I have, like, all this other stuff going on. People just generally think I'm way better than I am, just because I'm a lot more confident than I used to be. I used to be very unconfident when I was doing stuff, but once I realized that everyone really makes mistakes, and that it's common, it's something that should happen a lot to you, and that the only way you're going to learn how to do something is by doing it, I realized kind of the best approach for me, and I think for most people, is just to be overconfident and just kind of do stuff. And you're going to fuck up, and you need to be ready to fuck up. You have to be ready to admit that you were wrong or that you fucked up, and then you just learn from it and kind of go about your day. Now, you want to practice some caution. You don't want to, like, just jump off a cliff for fun with no one around and no real reason to do it. That's a whole nother level. But really, a lot of people are way underconfident this day and age, mainly because the internet makes you think everyone is kind of this perfect person, because when you can choose what you post online, everybody's going to post the best version of themselves that they can. And it's very rare for someone to really show any vulnerabilities. You'll just think, like, well, this guy did it without any of the mistakes or any of the practice. But it's like, no, it's the stuff behind the screen they don't show you, that whole make a mistake, you know, but not trying to make the same one again, that really makes the difference. Now, the next saying is pretty much the exact same one, but it's a little bit more specific, and it's question your beliefs as often as you can, be open to new ideas. Now this one is very near and dear to my heart, especially because I'm still a bit on the younger side. If you asked me a certain set of questions, I'd say like 10, 15 years ago, I would have answered them way differently. Because realistically, nobody knows everything. Nobody has everything down perfectly, nobody perfectly understands what's going on, and the only way you can kind of understand better is by asking dumb questions. I mean, you would not believe some of the stupid-ass questions I have asked, even recently. I just asked a lot of dumb questions, a lot of people laugh at me for it or whatever, and it's just kind of funny. I mean, I'm known in some of my friend groups for just asking all the stupidest fucking questions, but a lot of them are genuine, even the most basic things. Like, whenever I ask a question that seems basic to most people, I still get an answer normally, and I can learn from that, and it changes my beliefs drastically. I just feel like my life and my kind of view of the world has been so much better since I started just asking more questions. I just ask people questions all the fucking time. Like, there's genuinely so much you can learn even from the stupidest fucking questions, right? You have to be stupid to be smart. Nobody instantly grew up knowing every single answer to every single question. Most people that are like intelligent, when you go to someone and you just think they'll have the answer because they just know about most things, they didn't learn that overnight. They did something. Either they made a mistake or they asked a question. And between making mistakes and asking questions is so much fucking easier for you. I mean, let me tell you, it is so much easier. If I had just asked people about auto pay on credit cards, which I wasn't even aware was a thing that you could just do, that you could fucking, there's like a checkbox. You go into your banking like website or software, whatever, or into your physical bank, tell them like auto pay off my credit card. You can just do that. Like, I didn't know that. Nobody told me that, and I didn't ask the question. But if I'd asked the question, someone could have just told me. I'd have $70 more in my bank account right now if I just asked that fucking question. And would I have sounded dumb to someone if I asked them like, can you like auto pay on your credit card or something? It sounds like a stupid question. If someone came up and asked me that, I'd feel like that's a fucking stupid basic ass question, but I would still answer it. Most people would still answer it. And then you get your answer. And without having to make a mistake that could cost you money, that could cost you friends, that could cost you any number of things. You'll just be better off for it. And then the important part is to actually be open to new ideas, be open to the answers. I guess this is less about questioning your beliefs and more just asking questions in general. But the reason I specified, question your beliefs and be open to new ideas is more that, like, if you ask questions and then don't care about the answer, you're not going to learn and you're just going to have to make mistakes, right? Those are basically your two options in life. It's either A, ask questions, or B, make mistakes. Now, everyone does a bit of both because you're not going to think of every question, but anything you can think of is basically a mistake you don't have to make. It's just an easier way to live your life, especially if you're, very open to the answers and, like, you really listen to what people have to say. Now, a lot of times people give you bad answers. That's why you need to listen, But every time I ask a question and someone gives me an answer, every time someone else asks a question, I give them an answer and they give me, like, a response of some kind. I think about it, right? I genuinely think about it. A lot of time people happen to be wrong. Sometimes they're right. But I always give it some real thought, and everyone who knows me, knows that, right? I've had some people outright say that I'm a decent listener, especially compared to most people. I'm not so sure if that's true. I really just like to talk, and then listening's kind of just part of the process. But that is very important to me, is like, if someone asks me a question and I answer them and then they ask me the same fucking question, it always pisses me off, and I'm very reluctant to answer a second time. Like, if it's something like vital, if I'm teaching someone how to install a mod or something for a game we're about to play, I'll still do it just because otherwise we're not going to be able to play. But, like, why couldn't you just listen the first time? It makes my whole life easier. But, listening is very important. Listening, actually considering stuff, is important to making sure that you're right. Right? I can be so confidently right or wrong all the time, because when I'm confidently wrong and someone's like, no, you're wrong because of this, I'll just admit my mistake, right? I do make mistakes. I'm not a perfect person. Nobody's a perfect person. But I'll be like, oh, I didn't think about that. Or like, actually, no, you're right. Never mind this or that. Or I'll tell them like 2 days later a lot of the time, because it's kind of an odd thing to say in a conversation. But I'll think about it. I really do think about it. I don't just think I'm right 24/7, but it's definitely something I kind of think about often. And the final saying I like to live my life by is a quote directly from Reggie Fils-Aimé, who used to be like the CEO of Nintendo of America or something like that. And it's the quote, "If it's not fun, why bother?" It's just a good phrase. I mean, it's really self-explanatory, just live your life to have fun. You have to do stuff that isn't fun, obviously. I just told you how much about how life sucks for everyone. You gotta deal with it, and just that there's a lot of, you're gonna make mistakes, or you're gonna lose people, and that you're gonna be forgettable, and just every whole other part of life just sucks. But at the end of the day, your end goal, at least my end goal, is really just to have fun, because that's just really what matters to me. Right? I want to live a happy life, and the easiest way to live a happy life is to have fun while doing what I'm doing. You just try to make the best out of a situation, try to do stuff that makes your life better in one way or another. Right? Even stuff that isn't directly fun, think of it as the way to kind of lead to fun, right? The reason I work out, because if I work out, then I'm healthier. If I'm healthier, I'll feel better. If I'll feel better, I'll be able to do more. If I can do more, I can have more fun. If I feel better, I'll have more fun. If I feel better, I'll look better. And then I'll look better, I'll meet nicer people that are like similarly motivated, and then we'll have fun. It's like everything leads to fun in my life. That's my end goal for everything I do, is to have fun. Everything I do inherently is not fun. I'll be very real. Everything I do is not fun. I mean, editing this video is not fun, but seeing the end results, seeing if there's even one comment on this video saying either A, just like, this is true, you know, this is stuff that I've lived through and I wish I heard this earlier, or B, seeing a comment like, I saw this 5 years ago and it really helped me be a better person or save me in life or something. I don't fucking know. Any like positive comment I get on a YouTube video or whatever is all just like, oh, that's like really cool. It makes my day better. It's like fun. I know it's not directly fun, but you kind of know what I mean. Fun and happiness are like side by side for me. And that this kind of quote, if it's not fun, why bother, is strong in my head. I mean, something I think 24/7 is, how does what I'm doing help me kind of enjoy my life more and have fun with things? A lot of time that's very indirect, like trying to work out and be better and stuff like that. That took a lot of thinking to kind of make those connections, at least for me. I know it's really simple at the end of the day, but it took me a while to really convince myself that that would lead to fun, but it was worth it, let me tell you. But beyond like stuff like that, it even helps, even just in decision making a lot of the time. You know, 2 different people ask me to play 2 different games, I'll just play the one that I think will be more fun, or the person I'll have more fun with. A lot of the time it's the game more than the person, to be honest with you, but sometimes it's the game, not the person. I'm not gonna tell anyone when that is, because that's just fucked up to say. Like, ranking your friends is the most wild fucking thing you could do, especially because that ranking could change tomorrow, right? Like, friends are not in this permanent like ranking system. Friends for me are people I have fun being with. If I talk to you more than once, even if I talked to you once and we didn't have anything bad going on, like, we're on good terms, man. I had fun. That's the end of the day. That's what my kind of goal is. Have fun with life. Do things that are fun. Help people out, you know, have a fun, enjoyable time. And that's what life is really all about for me. It might not be for everyone, but that's kind of the biggest saying of all, and that's something I've really, after I heard Reggie say that, it's really kind of made a lot of stuff in my life better, and living that way has really drastically improved the way that I live my life. And yeah, a lot more of a serious video than I think I'll probably ever post again. I just figured this is a video I probably can't post in the future, right? Once you hit a certain kind of size of audience, it's like awkward. Like, if Mr. Beast made this video, I'd be like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what? You can't say this after you got 20 million subs, but you know, right now, I'm pretty broke. I'm still pretty young, still pretty inexperienced, but these are things that have really drastically helped my life, and I figured like this is the time that I can post content like this and just kind of have it help people in the future, people, you know, in the now, just anyone that might happen to see this. Hopefully this did help you. And with all that out of the way, hopefully you found this useful. Like I've said maybe once or twice in this video, if you found this useful at all, please do leave a comment. I would love to hear how this helped you, or that this did help you, or that you agree, or maybe if you disagree. I mean, other people should know if some of what I'm saying here doesn't work, or is wrong, or hasn't worked for you. And that is valuable stuff. And like one of the things in here is to question your beliefs, ask questions, and listen. And part of that process is having criticism, right? Have people say bad things to you, or bad things about you, or things they just disagree with. Disagreement is not bad. It doesn't make you a bad person if you disagree with someone. That's normal. And learning from those disagreements on both sides is the fun part of kind of questioning your beliefs and being open to stuff. It really is how I learned a lot about the world, is just arguing with people. And like, sometimes they're just wrong, or they have these really strong beliefs that I don't agree with. But very often when I talk to people and like I argue with them, we go back and forth, and either they come away with like a different perspective on stuff, or oftentimes I will come with a different perspective on stuff after the fact. Like, oh yeah, you're kind of right about this and that. And then it changes the way I think about stuff, and it's cool. That's the fun part of having a discussion. You know, a discussion's not a yap session where you just kind of speak at a brick wall. If you wanted to speak at a brick wall, you could just speak at one. I mean, there's walls all around you. Just start speaking to one right now. What the fuck's stopping you? But when I have conversation with people, it's because I want to have a conversation, and part of that is the back and forth, right? If I'm not open to getting negative comments, then I can't expect positive ones. That's just not how that works. And also, disagreements are not negative comments or criticism or whatever. People often blow stuff way out of proportion here on YouTube, and they'll get like one negative comment, be like, yeah, this guy disagreed with me, and he basically just said like my family should burn in a fire. I'm like, no, someone just disagreed with you, man. You said this was your favorite Pokemon design. They said it was not their favorite Pokemon design. It is not that deep. You know, whatever. But yeah, with that being said, hope y'all enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one, and have a great rest of your day.